Cornwell. Plus, we've got our commentators, Jodie Shields and Shirley Robertson. Big wave. But right now, all of the teams have made it to shore, and we can see live pictures of the prize giving. So you can see on the right-hand side of the picture, China in 3rd place. Phil Robertson and his team sneaking up to claim the last step on the podium. Nathan Outridge, I spoke to him as soon as he got onto the land here. Very, very humble in 2nd place. He was very complimentary about Tom Slingsby and the Australian team, who dominated not just today, but also the week and the season to claim the top spot and the first ever SailGP championship. So the prize is being given out by the Olympic snowboarder, Amy Fuller. And it was being placed on everyone. And we've got a few questions that have come in. So we're going to kick off. Oh, hold on a second. We got last medal there for Carl Langford, arguably the most courageous of the Australian team this week. He overcame illness to get in the boat on Friday for the first day of racing. He was nearly prone in the cockpit there. But they will celebrate this victory long into the night. So the first of the questions, they want to know what our favourite onboard moments from the season have been. And there have been some incredible pictures that we've been shown. Lisa, what stood out to you?
I definitely have to say when Chris Draper did a somersault, I mean, we're worried about his safety, but it did make for good television. And you know, that just goes to show how crazy these boats are and how they can be in control of you.
Yeah, it was a brutal move, wasn't it, Jan?
Yeah, definitely, it was really brutal. But then you got the move who are really impressive, but definitely the more meaningful is the last cross between the two boats, who leads to the winning situation.
Yeah, I mean, the one with Chris Draper, though, you see that. He comes out, you see the importance and the development of the lanyards for the sailors. The idea that they have to be tied on.
Yeah, before they didn't have lanyards in the America's Cup, and we saw Nathan Outridge actually jump off the side of the boat. So Chris was pretty lucky that he was tied on there, and he probably had a few bruises, but at least he wasn't man overboard. Yeah,
I think we saw a couple of those moments throughout the season. Matt, we had, I think it was Kai Hurst got really badly bitten off in New York.
Yeah, that's right. And the big worry with these boats, and it's been a massive worry for years, and I'm so happy to see these guys tethered to the boat now. The worry is you go over the boat and you get hit by your own foils or one of the boats behind you, and it'd be terrible to even think about it. So I'm so happy these guys are tethered onto the boats now. It's a real plus for the series.
Okay, Lisa, I know you've got to go now. I think you're in with the trophy, which we can see being given out as the champagne flows. I'll let you go so that you can get to the mix zone. Jodie, Shirley in the commentary box, what stands out to you from the onboard moments?
There's been many, hasn't there, Ed? But, you know, for me, when these guys crossed that finish line and they all let out that bear roar, we got a sense of how much this season had meant to them and how much tension and pressure was on them today. And you know, that was a real moment. I had a tear in my eye, Jodie. That real bear, that bear roll as they all embraced each other was pretty special.
And yeah, I imagine it was pretty good for you, Jodie.
It was absolutely incredible. And you know, my moment of the season has to go to Jason Waterhouse when they won in San Francisco, and he done his little dance on the deck. Here we are. We got the moment here. I mean that's insane. Look at that. Just a raw emotion.
I feel all tingly just listening to that.
It's just so incredible. I mean, you know.
The hardest onboard moments to watch are when they lose and when the camera turned to a desolate-looking Nathan Outridge who didn't even know what to say to his teammates. I mean, we're all sportsmen. We know what that moment's like, and that's really hard to watch.
Yeah, the Aussie spirit definitely come out right there. It was a moment, that's for sure.
We saw unbridled joy and despair at the same time there between the Australian and the Japanese boat. Going back to the onboard moments though, Jan, you started talking about that crossover between Japan and Australia in the match race, and that's something, it was almost a theme for the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and it's how we see that the graphics, I think the graphic there is great, But then when you go the Onboard, it means a lot, and we just see that they were crossing each other a couple of times by having the Japanese quite ahead. And then on the last one, the OC were on the lead, so it's really great. Hooks at that one.
Yeah, how big was the distance there? 200 mil tops. And that was great. These onboard cameras are really, you know, getting us into the racing. It's such a good thing to see.
Was that the end of the race effectively? It was Nathan Outridge's last roll of the dice.
That was the whole race right there. I mean, you know, did he do the wrong thing, the right thing? He was so close to clipping him there, and I don't think he was altering course. I think he was just going straight. And so for me, for sure, that would have been a penalty on the Australians, which would have given the Japanese the win. So, you know, the whole season came down to about that much air between two boats.
And that's what we talked about, isn't it, when you've got it that close?
Yeah, and then after laughing, they realize they can't have the penalties. They just jibe and take the other corner because it's the only thing you can do. It was like one remaining leg, so just try something. But the wind was less shifty than during the other races, and they never catch up.
Okay, well, we've covered off the good with the finish, and we've covered off the bad with that attempted luff from Nathan there. We can have a closer look at some of the uglies now. Jody, Shirley, we've got one of my favourite moments, and it's not because it was unfortunate, but it showed the drama and the recovery. We can see here USA going bows down and then capsizing. This was incredible for me.
Yeah, and one thing, it's hard to pick up here on the footage, but if we watch it again, you watch Tommy Johnson go over the top of Taylor Canfield. His tether actually gets caught around Taylor Canfield's neck and then gets trapped up underneath his helmet. So he dragged Taylor Canfield's head into the side of the boat as well, just from his body weight. So you can see Taylor trying to unhook Tommy's tether, and then so Tommy could then, you know, as he was doing his somersault, he was still trying to trim the wing and then get back on the boat. So if we can watch that again, it'd be pretty cool to spot it up. But you know, it just throws another moment in, like they said about you watch it here. You watch Tommy Johnson goes across straight over the top on the outboard edge of Taylor Canfield, and you see his tether is up and around the top of Taylor's head.
The wingmen always fly. I mean, I don't know if we've got the footage of Chris Draper as well, but partly because they're only holding onto a rope. You know, if you're steering, you've got a steering wheel, and if you're grinding, you've got a pedestal, and the flight controller sort of tucked in, but you've got a rope, and it's really, really slidey. I mean, maybe they'll look at that for next year, but yeah, you know, if you stop dead like that, your wingman is gonna fly.
Maybe the wingman.
They've got wings, the wingman.
They need more money, danger money.
Interestingly, though, you've got the wing controller who's flying. Usually, it's the flight controller just in front of them who takes the brunt of the impact because they're the one getting pushed into the cockpit.
Yeah, I guess that they're so low down in the cockpit where the wing trimmer and the skipper are actually sitting out on the outboard coaming, so they don't have a real lot of protection. Whether you see here with Stewie Bithell, he can go down, he braces and goes down, but Chris Draper's got nothing. He just goes over the front and enjoys the ride. But
I mean, often just watching it, you know, it's quite hard to get a sense, I guess, of the speed and the power of the impact. But they're doing the best part of 60 miles an hour, and if you're doing that in your car, and you go from 60 to 5 miles an hour, you know, you're going to feel it. You're going to hit that steering wheel with some force. And, you know, we've seen pedestals break and fairings come off, and, you know, it's that massive speed to suddenly not moving is impressive.
Yeah, go and hit a tree at 60k an hour without your seatbelt on and see what happens to you. And that's exactly what these guys are doing out there on the boats.
Okay, second question's coming from Anthosteen, and he wants to know why the teams can't proceed with jib changes between the races. Matt?
That's purely down to the race committee deciding that, Ian Murray. But there's also, it's short on time between races, so I don't think we've seen them do it at all this year. They don't really want to do it because they don't want to waste extra time. They want to bang the races off, and it's more about us seeing more race time and less time with them playing around with the boats.
Okay, Jody, Shirley, I mean, is it something, we saw how important the jib was yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, they were on the wrong jib. I mean, it's our fault, as Matt said. It's, you know, we've got a tight broadcast window and we want to fill it with action. We don't want to fill it with, you know, waiting around while people change sails. And there's a lot of calls to be made in the morning, and, you know, you rely on decent forecasting, and But in Marseille, we've seen this weekend, it was impossible to actually, you know, predict what was going to happen in the day. You know, a venue tucked into a city at the bottom of a load of mountains. It was so hard to predict the weather. But in the morning, you've got to decide, you know, what rudders everyone's going to use, what foils. I guess the jibs are more changeable. You can change them on the water. And next year, we're going to see, you know, modular wings. So yet more decisions to make in the morning. But, you know, a bigger jib, obviously, more power. It's easier to tack, particularly upwind, and, you know, a lot more options for the sailors.
And in the Cups previous, or the racing previous, it was up to the teams, each individual team, to make that decision. They could go out on big foils, small foils, big wings, big jibs, whatever. But part of the beauty of SailGP is they've tried to make it complete one design. So every single team is out on exactly the same equipment. So there's no saying, oh, we made the wrong call on equipment or whatever. Ian Murray and his race directors have to make that call at 8 o'clock in the morning, as Shirley said, and then they go out and they just have to deal with it. But it's the same across the board, and it comes down to talent.
I think this year, you know, a lot of the decision making's been about, you know, conserving the assets, making sure we've got all the boats come the end of the season. You know, because we've had some real rookie teams. There's essentially been 4 apprentice teams trying to work out how to get the thing around the track. But I think as everyone gets better and better, and what improvement we've seen this season, then I think in terms of equipment, I think they'll get braver and braver. Next season, I'm sure it'll be, you know, the bigger wings, bigger jibs, and you know, the guys, it's incredible the rate of knowledge that they've acquired and the rate of skills, and that's only going to keep going.
Well, Shirley, talking about next season, just walking past us, we spotted him behind the camera, Russell Coutts. It's a pleasure to have you here. You're the one man who can answer some of our questions about next season.
I thought you were going to say, talking about the past generation. So anyway, at least you're kind to me.
What, this is your vision. Is this what you imagine when you conceived SailGP?
Oh, I think the final race today was just fantastic. You know, you saw it had a little bit of everything. Plenty of drama. You know, the Australians on board would have been thinking that they had a tough act, you know, halfway through the race. So you know, you would have given that to the Japanese, and then all of a sudden they let the door open just a little bit, and of course they walked straight through it, which was great.
And I think it was, for me, I've watched very carefully this week, and it was almost cruel watching the pressure that the $1 million put on each of those teams, the Australians and the Japanese. Do you think we saw their personalities come out with that weight of expectation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, clearly Tom's a fighter, isn't he? You know, I mean, he's a redhead, he's a fighter, you know, and that comes through in the whole culture of their team, and they just never give up. And, you know, I think we've seen that in a number of events where they've just battled, which is cool. I sort of refer to it as winning ugly, you know what I mean? Almost, in some cases. Of course, they dominated in some of the events, but they just seem to be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat right at the important time.
And looking forward to next year, you've got a lot up your sleeve, haven't you?
Yeah, exciting times. You know, we've got... you know, new wing sails, which will make quite a difference to the performance of the boats. I think we'll probably see 53 knots next year. I think that's very realistic. I think there's, you know, new boats coming online. We'll have to wait and see which teams come on board, but there's quite a lot of interest in those teams. Some of them are going to be looking to join after the Olympic Games, so yeah, exciting times.
On a personal note, what's been your highlight of the season?
Oh, there's been a lot of highlights. I think just really introducing this new form of sailing to a lot of people. You know, we pretty much the response has been, I didn't expect anything like that. You know, and it's almost as if we should start a marketing campaign. It's not what you think, because clearly this is redefining sailing, I think.
Russell, thank you so much. I know you're a very busy man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got one last question left. It's come in from Joan Winston, and she wants to know, are there any plans to make the boats more water repellent, so they don't take on quite as much water, and then limit the amount of breakages? I wonder if she's asking if the boats are going to turn into submarines.
Maybe that was part of the question, but I'm pretty sure they're going to look at it after like reviewing all the races and the whole season. But we also know that nothing is fully set for next year, no?
Yes, I think when it comes to the breakages, that's a really interesting question. These boats are very fragile, but that's because they're so fast, they're right on the edge of technology, and they're breaking the boundaries, and we want to see that out there racing. But because they're all the same, you could beef them up a bit, but will that take away from the racing? I guess what you could look at is there reoccurring breakages that we can try and get those out of there a little bit. If the boats have a few niggles, that's stuff they can work on. I think having the different size wings and being able to take some of the power out and the higher end stuff is potentially going to be a good thing. The boats aren't going to get any less wet though, and I think that's fine. They're like dinghies. It's like sailing a dinghy. You get wet. They wear wetsuits. You don't wear waterproofs. You accept you're going to get wet and you put a wetsuit on.
Jody, Shirley, what's the opinion in the commentary box?
You know, I think it's been a massive learning this season. You know, the inaugural year of the series, not just for the sailors, but you know, for the tech team as well. And there's a lot of takeaways all round. And you know, I'm confident it'll all be more reliable next year. We've had there's been issues with software. I'm trying to think what else. There's been occasionally with the foils. But the lovely thing and the strong thing about this series is that the tech team are in control of all the boats. So everyone will get an upgrade, whether that's software or hardware. And I'm sure next year it will be a lot more reliable.
Yeah, I think with the catamaran shape, the sailors have to be down inside the hull for two reasons. One's protection from what we've seen with the nosedives, so we can't get away from the water filling the hulls up. But when you think about what we've been through and where we've raced and what we've done, the breakage is really, apart from the USA broke a rope and it unfortunately took them two races to fix. The other breakages were, Dylan and that put a boat in the water. I mean, the USA put their boat in the water and sailed the next two races, so they're pretty decent boats. You know what I mean? So I think for what they get put through, I reckon they're pretty robust. I think they're pretty tough.
Okay, well, that's it. Thank you to everyone who sent their questions in throughout the season for our Facebook Lives. Jody, Shirley in the commentary box, thank you so much for all of your insight throughout the season and your passion. Gentlemen, to next me, Matt Cornwell, Jan Rocherio. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for watching this season. It's been truly, truly breathtaking. It's lived up to all of the hype from here in Marseille. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next season in Sydney.